저는 북한 공산 세력의 위협으로부터 자유 대한민국을 수호하고 우리 국민의 자유와 행복을 약탈하고 있는 파렴치한 종북 반국가 세력들을 일거에 척결하고 자유 헌정 질서를 지키기 위해 비상계엄을 선포합니다.
It was an announcement that shocked people in South Korea and around the world, marking the first time in 44 years that martial law was imposed across the country. Just hours later, after lawmakers voted against military rule in an emergency session, President Yoon Suk-yeol backtracked.
국회의 계엄 해제 요구가 있어 계엄 사무에 투입된 군을 철수시켰습니다. 바로 국무회의를 통해 국회의 요구를 수용하여 계엄을 해제할 것입니다.
But the damage was done.
갑자기 소식이 있더라고요. 그래가지고 거짓말인가 그랬는데 그래서 여러 군데 막 돌아보니까 진짜 계엄령을 선포한 거예요. 그래가지고
그리고 뭐가 반국가 세력인지 모르는 것 같아서 본인이 지금 가장 반국가 세력이라고 생각이 되기 때문에 얼른 내려오는 게 우리 국민들한테 도움이 되지 않을까 그런 생각합니다.
What was he thinking? What was his end goals? From what we can piece together, President Yoon has been incredibly frustrated in recent months, especially in trying to move his agenda through the National Assembly and especially his budget.
Yoon invoked the threat posed by North Korea. He suggested a connection between the opposition and Pyongyang as the reason to impose martial law. While tensions have risen in recent years, is there a real imminent danger posed by Pyongyang to Seoul?
No. And this is a political point that conservatives often use. And the mechanism that he used to justify it was like, well, because they're opposing me, they must be pro-North Korean.
Yoon now faces the consequences of his gambit, which the opposition has labeled a failed coup.
What's next is still not entirely clear, but what's next is Korea is a domestic Korean issue that I'm very confident that Korea is well equipped to handle. They have really shown, I think, in this that the Korean people have finally turned the page on any kind of nostalgia for the Chunduan Park Chung-hee dictatorship era.
It will take more than the National Assembly's vote to remove Yoon from office. At least 6 judges from the Constitutional Court, one of the country's highest courts, need to approve the motion. The reviewing process can take up to 6 months. The impeachment process that former President Park Geun-hye faced in 2016 took about 3 months to finalize. The Constitutional Court may not approve the motion. In 2004, the National Assembly impeached then-President Roh Moo-hyun, but the Constitutional Court reinstated him 2 months later.
Even here in Seoul in the streets, at nighttime, the protests are starting to grow. And, people do have to work still during the day, during the week. But the weekends, this is what we saw back in 2016. The weekends, you had millions of people flocking to Seoul to protest, to call for impeachment. And I would expect the longer that this drags out, that you will start to see that sort of plaza politics play out once again.
However, even if strong popular mobilization is expected, the country's institutions are likely to weather the current storm.
The country still functions, and the government still functions. And so, you have a pretty resilient system here that will still continue while there might be, greater political turmoil. But, it's not going to devolve into a sense of real instability as we would see in some countries.
The political upheaval is being closely followed by Seoul's neighbors and partners, particularly the United States.
So I think that the martial law announcement and those hours after that were very concerning to Washington. This is not what the ally that we know and love in Seoul, the way we think they would normally operate as such a bastion of liberal democracy. So that was very concerning.
Seoul and Washington are important allies, with about 28,000 U.S. soldiers stationed in South Korea.
I don't think that the alliance with the United States is going to suffer. We saw in previous impeachment processes, both the one when Park Geun-hye was the president, but also when Roh Moo-hyun was the president, that the alliance continued to function.
I think the alliance is on very, very sturdy ground. I think we have a 70+ year military alliance. I'm very optimistic that any administration in the United States or in South Korea will look to the other partner and see the value, and we'll see that this is a partnership and an alliance to be cultivated and advanced.
The U.S. has also been working to build an alliance network with Seoul and other regional partners such as Japan and the Philippines. If the impeachment process results in the main opposition Democratic Party coming to power, it could lead to a change in Seoul's foreign policy.
The DP has been very critical of Yoon being too forward, for instance, in relations with Japan, and too dismissive of the historical issues that exist between Japan and South Korea. So there likely will be some change in the dynamics between South Korea and Japan, especially if there is a liberal president.
I don't think there would be a substantial change if there is a change in government that will have the Liberal Party in office. The exception, I think, probably would be North Korea, in that liberal presidents tend to be more willing to seek dialogue with Pyongyang.
In Pyongyang, the Kim regime has remained quiet ever since the martial law announcement. But will they capitalize on this situation?
From a propaganda standpoint, I think they're going to have fun. This is one of those instances where, they're definitely going to take their rhetorical jabs to say, like, you speak of democracy, but look at how your, for Yoon, look at how corrupt your government is.
I think North Korea and the North Korean regime will be happy, obviously, that there is instability in South Korea. But we shouldn't forget this instability comes because the leader of the country issued a martial law order that within 6 hours he had to cancel because of the work of the democratic institutions. So I think that's why it's difficult for North Korea to really capitalize.
하지만 아직 그 상황은 연속되어 있다고 생각합니다.